I would like to acknowledge that we were not very present last time.
Yeah.
I think I took the last one a little bit too easy. We had a lot of high energy from the first one.
Yeah.
Very on board. Like we thought like this is smooth sailing, and I would just like to acknowledge that we didn't show up for each other. How I think we should show up for each other. I was not very grounded. You were also not feeling very grounded. And we had a good conversation, but I would like this to be a place where we come reasonably prepared, not performative. I want to trick us more into having real conversations where we don't even realize this is being recorded. I want us to feel there's no obstacles and no ego attached to it, because we both have it.
Yeah.
And I would like us to get to a place. And then I will find ways to do that in a dynamic way where we both don't even realize at some point. Where there's no obstruction. And I would like these things to be shorter and more compressed and a little bit like bringing also value for us going forward.
Yeah.
Tell me about your last 4 weeks and what was going on.
It's been an interesting 4 weeks because I think it started really well. Like as soon as I finished that episode, I was on things. I was kind of still running off the high. It still was going down a bit, but I was still productive. I was still painting loads. And then about halfway through the month, I got really ill and everything kind of fell apart a bit.
End of February. Halfway through.
Yeah, like two weeks ago.
Yes, so that was
the end of the early this month really. Yes. And it's kind of weird how when you get ill you just seek comfort and this and that, and you're like, my exercise fell off, which means my energy levels went down, which means I was sleeping less, which means just one thing, like one little building block taken out can kind of crumble quite a lot in your life, which I've really been feeling the repercussions of. And it was quite a serious illness, not like life-threatening, but it took me a while to get back. I'm not even at 100% now, and it's like 2 weeks later.
Yes.
But I think it just contributes to itself. I wasn't eating as healthily, I wasn't exercising, so then I wasn't getting better, and it just...
It's so easy how everything, like it's like a little card house, and it kind of just fall apart by just like exercise taking one thing out. Right?
Yeah, and it just collapses, right? And I'm kind of quite an all or nothing person, and I'm working on that. But then, so for me to just step back a bit is just to lay down, instead of like doing anything.
It's like, and you had goals last time, if I remember correctly. You said during the end of last episode, you said you wanna keep your painting productivity.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Awfully. Really shit. And this
it didn't start shit, right? It was
good first in the 2 weeks.
But then at some point I didn't hear from you anymore. Like you sent me paintings quite regularly, like in January and February, and like over the last few weeks, I'm like, what's happening there? So you're not really productive at the moment.
And it kind of ties in with the same thing. My mood has also been incredibly low. And I think this is something I need to face, which is I don't want to put negativity out in the world. But I think this is hiding from myself a little bit, because in a way, painting projects but also gets rid of my emotions. It like transfers them onto the canvas. Yes. It is quite a one-way thing. And I think that if I was able to do that with sadness or grief or anything, it would be helpful. I just didn't want to... I think that even contributing to the world's sadness, as long as it's...
You're an artist, you need to do work.
Yeah.
It's like, an artist, you need to produce work. It's like, I'm not an artist, but I understand the principles of your job.
Yeah.
It's like, you need to do work. Regardless how you feel. Yeah. It's like, authors, they need to fucking write. You need to fucking paint.
You need to paint through it.
I would hope that I see sad paintings from you, or like distracted paintings, or just please send me paintings.
Yeah.
Like, but I think that, don't want to speak for you, but like I would love to see you being productive, because I know how happy you are when you're productive. So I would also like to make you accountable for it.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do.
Also said you want to like produce paintings without external stimuli. Like, how's that going?
Equally awfully.
Also, when you're not producing much, it's like
but I feel like I've come to terms. We had a brief conversation earlier. I'm going to clear my studio out. I'm going to put all the paintings in one place away. I'm going to hide them. I'm going to put loads of blank canvases on the walls, and then I'm going to go in and approach that space.
New chapter.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I think it's even in like the mark making that I do, if there's lots of things around me, I subconsciously just take them in. And then my mark making is very similar to the work around me, even if I'm not paying. So to just really have a bit of a reset, I think now would be so helpful.
I like that. The third thing was you wanted to do nothing more. Like you wanted to be like, have no agenda and just stare at the wall or outside. Like, how's that going?
Fantastically. So I've been
excellent.
losing painting for staring at the wall.
Yes. So then but are you still distracting yourself? Like, are you seeking out stimuli? Like, how's that going?
I notice myself when I'm doing it, and I'll take moments. Like, I'll be like, okay, today I'm going to walk to work without music, or today I'm not going to put an audiobook on. I'm just going to sit with myself. And I've noticed it was great in the first 2 weeks. It was more difficult in the next two, because your internal monologue, when you're not feeling great, is not a great space to be alone with. But I still tried to sit with it a bit.
Yeah.
I often just try and push through unhappiness, because it's a very uncomfortable space for me. I get very high highs and very low lows and very little of a middle. So sitting in like deep sadness is not easy. With antidepressants, that boundary has come down quite a lot, which is nice. So it's not like mania and depression. It's the edges of both, but it's still nice.
It was fascinating to see that you sent me less paintings, but you sent me screenshots occasionally of your screen time, which went down. So congratulations.
Thank you. But even the last week was 5 hours. So it was like 2.5, 3, 2 and something, and then 5 when I was really not very well, because you're just stuck in.
And also dating apps. It's lazy. Yes.
100%. I've downloaded a few dating apps, and really that space is taking up, but not even too much. That's not even the vast majority. YouTube was pretty much most of.
I know. Let's talk about my last 4 weeks. Turbulent. There's a lot of things that have happened on my side as well at work. I have a lot of feminine energy in my life right now, which is very exciting and very distracting as well. There's a lot of forces in my life that I really appreciate. I really appreciate that life feels very lively at the moment.
Yeah.
I've been quite being pulled all over the place when it comes to the things that I wanted to do. Like, I wasn't able to write 7 hours per week. Not even that. My sleep is all over the place. I didn't feel I was very focused. What actually increased was, like, to your point, like, I'm sitting regularly every fucking day. Like, I came back to, I think I said in January, I don't want to practice formally anymore, or in February maybe. I don't want to sit regularly anymore. And I'm like, now in the other direction. I need to practice. I need to actually have a meditation practice that is consistent every day, 20 to 45 minutes. And looking at my mind, because when my goal is to be present, I need to also do that, not just with mindfulness outside, but actually on a cushion. That it makes my life better. But other than that, I have been all over the place too. So it was not the most focused weeks. There was a few days where I was definitely also feeling numb. was not really feeling in touch with my emotions, where I distracted myself. Like I had 1 week where my screen time went up to 4.5 hours per average per day, which is like, I didn't have that in the last 5 months or so, 6 months. So it went up really high. Goals already for next one? Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I think painting and painting without stimulus, one goal. I'll put it together.
So you said
That's
like
ongoing.
Blank canvases.
Clean studio, blank canvases on the walls, get myself into a new state and paint without anything in the room, and just really try and clean and clear everything.
Yes. And anything that you just besides like wanting to paint, do you want to put a number to it, or do you want to just like do it by feel?
I think do it by feeling. I think when I'm productive enough. You know what I mean? I've just got to get myself into the space of being productive.
But you will send me
regular intervals. I think that's nice. It keeps me accountable, and it's a nice thing to do. It works in my head quite well.
Yes. Cool. I'm for myself. I think I said this to you before. Like I want to focus a little bit more on what I'm producing. Like I really look well after myself. It's like reading, gym, everything is like, I don't complain at all. Like even the trying to look at sleep, I'm happy with that. But what I really need to focus on for the next couple of weeks is the value that I'm producing, not just in my ambitions with like working with men and mental health. I'm making loads of progress there. Like I also like try to go to meetings now and like really engaging with that work. I will keep doing this, but I want to actually be able to produce things. So I might be even thinking about writing external stuff. And then is the big piece of it is like a focus on work that needs to happen for the next few weeks. And people in my life know this, that this is now a thing. So then we have goals. We talked about the last month. Today, let's talk about grief and letting go. I anticipate that this will be a little bit of a heavier conversation.
Yeah.
I think we can do that while still keeping a light heart and knowing that things are okay. I feel very loved in your presence. I know that we can look at deep, dark corners that are maybe not that easy to look at. And I felt maybe we talk about grief a little bit as an idea, as a concept of like, and then we figure out a way how to sit still, sit with ourselves, and then look at moments in our lives that we want to process.
Yeah.
And I really like that idea that it's not necessarily a large conversation of back and forth, but it's more like us feeling things. And I want to feel into your moment. And I want to express myself in a way that you can feel into mine. And figure out how we do that. By the way, this is deep waters for me. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I like that idea of experimenting with you and figuring out like what we can do.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
Yes. Let's talk about grief just in general.
Yeah, I think so. For me, I feel I suppose a good place to start would be my father and my reaction to the way that he existed. He's very much like stereotypical working man of his generation, you know, not talking about feelings, not accepting like there's so much there that he didn't express and didn't open up. And I think in contrast to him, I went the other way and I'm very expressive. And I worry that sometimes I'm too much, you know. I'm worried that sometimes maybe I and maybe our generation like commodify grief or commodify these things a little bit. I think that it's fairly like a natural reaction when a previous generation has this, specifically men, has this kind of not showing any emotion, then for the rebellion to be the opposite, you know, which I love. I think that's a wonderful step forwards, and we perhaps maybe have gone a bit too far, but the healthier middle ground will be approached now.
What do you mean by compartmentalizing?
Compartmentalizing grief, yes. Like modification, compartmentalizing, just the idea of being able to just lock things away on one side and not deal with it either. And then the other side, just having an excess amount of it to the point where it's currency, it's tradable, and kind of, I mean, from everything from like pharmaceuticals giving out antidepressants as not a preventative measure, but something that just sustains you long term. I mean, it has huge value, but yeah,
took me a while to understand that grief, that was the only good thing that I got out of cognitive behavioral therapy, because cognitive behavioral therapy is a lot of charts and a lot of worksheets and PDFs for some reason. And the only useful thing so I went into cognitive behavioral therapy in a time with a lot of grief.
Yeah.
And she showed me a chart of time and intensity of feelings. And I always thought it's like, oh, it's a big spike at the beginning and then it goes down. And the chart that she showed me, which was so useful, is like, no, it's like it goes up in the beginning, but then it will come back for the rest of your life. It will be always part of you, because your brain is like somehow figuring out how to do something, like how to relate to a person, a space, yourself, when time has passed and that person is not there anymore, or that space is not there anymore. And I quite like knowing that grief will always be part of me, it just with different intensities. It's like, and that was very useful to see that chart over time, because I thought like, no, it's just once and then it goes away. It's like you have like some injury and then it goes away when your body is healing. Like, no, it's like your brain is just trying to adjust, right?
Yeah, I feel that. I feel as well the kind of depth of emotions you have in one way is always the other side as well. So like someone you don't care about, you don't feel that much towards, but they can never hurt you. But even with yourself, like the more you love yourself sometimes, the deeper the depth of pain and just sorrow you can get.
Yes. I would like us today to feel some of that. I think we should play some music. And I would like us to remember and talk about a specific moment where we were experiencing someone or something for the last time.
Yeah.
It could be a person. It could be a place. It could be an experience. Like, I feel it's most useful to do that with things that are emotionally charged. Because I'm sure I saw people today outside for the last time in my life. But you know what I mean? It's like something that actually causes us to grieve.
Yeah.
It might be moments that we are thinking about all the time. It might be moments that are coming up today. And it's like, I would like us to sit a little bit and just contemplate it. Like, let's contemplate about a moment where we experience someone or something for the last time. We might know it's the last time. We might have not known it's the last time. It's like, in a lot of cases, it's surprising. And I want us to just sit with that, wait what comes up, and then see how that goes. Maybe we do like 2 each and see and hold space for each other.
Okay.
I will play some music. Feel free.
I think I thought about this when you asked me, and the first thing that came to mind was my father's best friend. And it's a strange one. I was never crazy close to him, but he was just in my life, you know. He was always there, he was always present. And I was quite young, and he died of cancer. And it's crazy to have someone in your life and then they're just gone. That's it, you know.
Do you remember the moment when you experienced him for the last time?
Yeah. I think the moment that sticks out to me, we were on holiday, his family and then I were on holiday together. And after that I went, I didn't. And it was, you can, like with cancer, you watch someone decline, you watch them become less themselves and more hollow. It's I like the it's always stuck with me, this concept of I don't remember his voice. I can remember his face. That's quite a clear picture in my head, and I think always will be. I probably not always say this permanence and memory and things. He was a DJ, and I still hear his. I still have like an album of his, but his voice has changed on it. You know, it's through a load of different filters, and I get a little annoyed because I love his music and it brings me a great deal of emotions, but it's not. I want to hear his voice, you know, and it's these parts that you really hold on to.
What do you remember of the vacation?
The location,
the holiday that you did together.
It was. It felt like a last thing, you know what I mean? It felt there was weight to it. I was young and I didn't quite understand, but it was like...
How old were you?
I don't remember. It must be like around 10, maybe a bit younger, but your conceptions of the world are so... I don't know, naive or small or constrained.
Like you have never experienced death like this before, right?
Like
but were you aware during the vacation that he at some point, like, did someone tell you before?
It happened after the vacation, when he came back, but I didn't see him because he was very much like in hospital and then died. And I don't even have words for it, you know. It's always struck me more than I've had a few people die in my life, and I think I don't even know why this hit me so hard, you know. I think sometimes I try and put an intellectualization on it, or I try and understand it, and sometimes emotions just defy all that, you know. And even to this day, it's just there, it sits in your stomach, you know.
Are you thinking about it a lot, or is that coming up because of the question today?
I think about it now and then, but it came up. There was this nice thing I read recently. The grief of this will fill our shadows. And it's nice on the one side of like your shadows being, you know, the weight behind you in this, but even like the Jungian shadow, the darkness within you, you know, and it feeding the darkness within you is quite a nice idea. And you've got to be careful because that darkness is something you cannot let overcome you.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. It's been like over 20 years now. and it just is still like a void in myself. It's like a space that's just missing, you know. Yeah.
Do you actually think about the holiday together? Or about him more as a person?
One of the big takeaways from that was just how much less of him he was, you know. He was so vibrant before, he was so full of life, and you just that, yeah, I don't know, when you're young you sometimes feel things but don't understand them, and I felt the weight of that whole holiday, and there was like a real tension in the air, but I didn't put any of the dots together, you know. It was just around me. And yeah,
I'm glad you had the experience though.
yeah, yeah.
Anything else connected to that?
Just, I suppose, the family he left behind, what it did to my father. Like, grief is as much like how it affects the people you love as it is how it affects you, you know. The fact that just sadness was all around, the fact that he died young, you know. He was he like late 30s or like 40s? He died very young, and it's hard when someone dies when they're 80 and 90 or 70, you're like, they've lived, you know. It's sad, but when someone dies like 30s, 40s, 20s, 10, it's heartbreaking.
No.
It's the loss of what could have been. It's the like the space that is empty is so much larger. Yeah.
Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
When I thought about grief, I thought about me being very young. I was a teenager, and I remember the specific moment when I walked away from home and I made an intentional decision to, like, there was a lot going on in that place, and there was a lot of abuse, intentional or not, not just physical, but more emotional. And I remember the specific moment. There was this would trigger a lot of people, but there was a very unhealthy Sunday, and there was I'm sure that the whole neighborhood heard it, and I felt I had enough. Like, you're 15 and you feel like, I can't be here anymore. I don't feel that I will not survive here. Like, I will not make it. Like, at that age, I thought that people like me don't get 30. Like, I had this, like, I thought, like, I will not make it. Like, 30 would be already a stretch. Like, I felt this was not in the range of possibilities. And I remember the specific Sunday where I turned the back on my parents and my home, and I walked away, not knowing what this will lead to. Like, I had a glimpse of like the social system in Germany, which is very helpful apparently. But I had no idea where this will lead. I just knew that I didn't want to go back. And I remember that specific feeling of like walking away and me knowing I don't want to enter this place again. I did once to get my things a few weeks later, but I never entered my home again. It was not a home, it was a place, but I sometimes connect with that feeling. It's a different kind of grief. It's more the grief of a safe place.
Yeah.
That was also not necessarily there. It's like, and it brought me a lot of good things to walk away. I got an education, some kind of upbringing that turned me out all right.
More than all right.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy about all this. Like it enabled a fantastic life. But the 10, 15 years after were, like, I would say 20, like, were when you haven't really thought about these moments, when you haven't really grieved. But there is like a feeling of grieving a childhood, grieving safety, grieving literally. I got triggered very easily just with when I saw loving fathers with their kids. Like you're like,
It's heartbreaking.
yes, like so, and like like I'm now very much feeling very differently to this, and like I'm trying to live the change. I will live the thing that I didn't have, but that moment was definitely something where I still like the walk. Like I specifically know I can almost see the place, and I know what time of day it was, and I know like the feeling that I had when I walked to the police and all this. It's like there was a certain weight to it, and I could feel back then like this is a moment that will change my life. And I knew that this, like, I was like, this is not a black and white thing, and I will maybe go back. It was like I jumped in that moment, and I felt when I jumped, there's no turning back. There's no, and I didn't want that to be a turning back. I didn't want that like to be a place where I could go back into the same state. So that's a big moment.
Yeah. Wow. I've held someone recently in my arms who was talking about, I don't remember their exact words, but they were just talking, they were crying in the beginning, and I was like, what's wrong? And they were like, there was this mother and I was there and they made me a sandwich. I was like, what? You don't really, and they were just like, yeah, they were just being kind and lovingly and a mother. And then it kind of clicked, and I was like just in tears and just holding this person being like, ouch, that's so, yeah.
So any other moments that came up when we were sitting?
The home and the safety thing is like having a safe home can be such a, like, just emotional or physical abuse in the past can leave you so, like, physical abuse particularly can leave you very detached from your own body, and emotional abuse can leave you in such weird places, having to unlearn, having to realize your own bad behavior, unlearn your bad behavior, and then try and grow to something better.
But connected to grief, like to a specific moment where we were like, what came up?
Grieving for my childhood.
Yes.
I very much feel the similar weight of, like, I don't know. I think that I don't even know how to say this.
But do you remember a moment when you experienced childhood for the last time? Because again, I try to get us to a point where we actually try to be there
In that
and
moment.
not zoom it out too much, because like then you're not really there. You're just thinking about the thing?
I don't even remember. I think being the eldest of many, many children, you have to grow up very, very, very quickly. So I don't even remember when I was a child, I was like changing nappies when I was like, must have been close to like 8, 9, and that there's just a level of responsibility that, so one of the things we have like core tenets of teaching, and one of the most interesting one is providing a child their childhood. And that's one of the most open ones, but I feel like there are just certain things that just don't allow you to have that childhood.
We don't have many memories before we're 8.
Yeah.
It's like, there's not really a place where we write things down.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I really like this today.
I struggle with memories as it is, and that's another kind of definitely defense mechanism of just kind of blocking off the past as something that just didn't happen.
But that helps me understand a little bit why you're zooming out.
Yeah.
Like, it's because it's like changing nappies when you're 8.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. It's a weird one of like, giving your children responsibility and helping them grow. And then there's the other side of just letting them play and be free and unthoughtful, and like even beyond the changing nappies, just being left with children to look after. When I was a child, it's just, I made so many mistakes, and like of course, but you still feel them. People will say to me, it's like, but you're a child. It's like, yeah, but I was still in that moment. I was still making the mistake.
What is a mistake? Like, just out of curiosity, what is a mistake, hypothetically? Didn't you do a nice 3-course dinner for the whole family? How dare you?
There was a lot of things with varying degrees of like terribleness attached.
You were a fucking kid. So
yeah.
No, it's not your fucking fault. It's like,
you still feel it though.
I know. Well,
there was a lot of like violence in my past as well from a few different sources, and I definitely brought that forwards to the children, and I stopped. That was the way that I was taught to discipline people, was through violence, and that is just horrendous, and it's heartbreaking to do and to be on the end of, and just I just remember a moment where I was like standing above like a brother of mine, and they were just in tears, and I was just like one of the most heartbreaking moments of my entire life. I so ashamed of that behavior that I don't know.
I understand a lot more about you now, because how you express yourself today is like, sometimes you're expressing yourself as a kid. I think I don't want to analyze this, but it's like your playfulness comes out now more than it was maybe able to back then.
Yeah. I think it's, in part, one is being an artist, you have to be more playful. It's the way you interact with the world. But in part, it's because I didn't have that space, I suppose.
You also became an artist because of it. You could be an accountant.
Yeah.
Well, that would be fun.
I don't think it was. I couldn't sit at a desk. I don't think that wouldn't be for me.
No.
But yeah, it definitely pushed me to the space I am. Yeah. And I think out of all of it, like, I think the one thing to really hold to, or the one thing I hold to, is like, I'm proud of who I am now.
Yes.
And every moment before made who I am in this moment. So I don't think I would change any of my past. Which is a lot.
Yeah.
Are there any moments that strike you? Are there moments you can think about in your past of like real turning points, moments where you're ashamed of your behavior, or you felt such grief inside you?
The grief came after, but I remember one specific moment where that was a turning point, where I saw someone for the last time. No, where I remember a specific day where I felt connected to someone who left my life afterwards.
Yeah.
And we encountered each other a few times after, but there was never a connection anymore,
Mm.
which is just how life goes. But that specific day, I felt that the connection snapped.
Yeah.
Like it's like an invisible threads, and the invisible threads snapped on that day. And we had already broken up before, but we were both in the process of grieving together almost. And it was very wholesome. And over the course of the day, I became more emotional with it. There was a lot of resistance for me to let go.
Mm.
I didn't show up as the grounded force that I want to be. Like, I was not aware of the emotions. Like, the emotions were able to dictate my actions and my behaviors. And I probably knew it was one of the last, like, I knew it as well. It was probably the last connected day. And I was clinging on to it so much
Yeah.
that I couldn't really let it go with grace.
Mm.
That's my real regret. It's like not the letting go bit, but it's like I wish I would have been more graceful and more.
What would a you being more graceful look like?
Just the, like, knowing that you're clinging in the first place, knowing that nothing is forever, like regardless how you feel about things, regardless how deeply sad you are that this person is leaving your life, I will encounter that moment again. Definitely will, but I would like to not put pressure on anyone, and I put pressure on that person to be there for me and to understand me and to like grieve the same way I'm grieving. And like I pushed her into a corner that was just not fair. And I was not able, like in that moment, I was hoping for relief of that pain. And today I know I need to feel the pain. It's okay to have the pain. It's very okay. But I want to be able to sit there, have my heart being broken, but be present with it instead of negotiating, fighting, or like putting blame, or like all this other shit that is really useless. Because sometimes, like, and I knew it wasn't working.
Yeah.
But I was just making it worse by wanting to, like, being taken care of and so on. And you need to be able to take care of yourself. It's like, I know that, but I learned that way later. You know what I mean? And what I'm grieving is how ungraceful I showed up, which led to more conflict and to ultimately snapping all the elastic cords.
Yeah.
And two people going their separate ways. And it's like I was also not just ungraceful in that moment. I was graceful over a whole period of my life. Where, and today I understand when I'm ungrateful.
Yeah.
And I can see it. And sometimes it's thoughts. Sometimes it's not even behaviors. Sometimes it's literally just thinking where I'm blaming people for circumstances. Where I'm like, I should just let people be and let them live their lives. And I hope everyone who I love in the past or will love in the future is all right.
Yeah.
I really hope that. But I can't make the world a specific way just to give me comfort. And that, like, that feeling of, like, there's a certain way to it, but I try to, and I've been thinking about apologizing for that for a long time. We're not in touch. I don't think that's needed. I want my life to be the apology. You know what I mean? It's like I want my actions, the here and now, to be the apology, and to be able to avoid that I do it again in the future.
Yeah.
I said this recently. It's like I don't like I'm totally okay with the universe leading people into my life and out of my life and all that. It's like totally okay when things happen by chance. What I'm not okay with is that how I show up, like how grounded I am, how present I am, is directly correlated with my behavior, and my behavior is directly correlated with how people are attracted into my life and attracted out of my life. I'm okay with it when things just happen, but I don't want to be the source of that energy anymore. Like that energy where also I didn't even want to be in my life. You know what I mean? So how can other people be? So like that groundedness, that grace is something that I'm now very, like deeply attracted to, and I'm actively working on every fucking day to get there. And it's better now. It's getting there. It's slightly.
I feel like if you're not shown healthy ways, then you just have to bumble your way through life and just make mistake after mistake after mistake until you wake up and be like, I'm doing things differently.
Yes. And we both do that now.
Yeah.
And this is why we have this conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm glad that we found a way to connect today in the raw headspace that we're in. Like, I know that we have both been struggling a little bit. I like that we're still showing up. I like that we are still keeping this consistency. I never had a doubt today that you would not show up. You know what I mean? It's like, I literally landed from San Francisco yesterday. So I'm like, I still had no doubt that we need to do this today, that this is an important part of our lives now. And I'm quite looking forward to do this in 4 weeks with you again.
Yeah. I'm excited for it.
I love you very much, Rolly.
I love you too.